we have visuals. What is going on today? So there's the 1080. Should be back now, John. Technology's not been with me. It's annoying because it's one of those things where I don't know what's causing this. Otherwise, I would fix it. Don't seem to be. What happened? No clue. It's just dropping. Let me just respond on Facebook. Right, there we go. Tech support have been informed that this is still intending to carry on. Why have I dropped another 2K frames? Bitrate seems fine. Doesn't seem to be dropping any more frames. Let's keep it like that. Okay, trying to carry on. Yeah, it is bad. I didn't actually stop streaming. It just stopped itself for a moment there. I don't understand. Maybe I'm just having a low bitrate day or something stupid. To be fair, it would help if this laptop wasn't currently on the Wi-Fi, but my modem lives in the living room and I ain't streaming from the living room. Right, yeah. So coming back in, a little bit of my dark green that we started out with as skin and just pushing back. Let's get it a little more moist. It's a warmer day, so the paint is a little drier. There we go. And just pushing back a little bit of that green, that pink, just to make it look a little bit more natural. Because so far, quite a lot of it is just going straight from the pink to the bright green that I used to start highlighting this up. I over applied it a little bit. There we go. Also missed a little bit of the muscle down here underneath his armpit. Let's get that a bit defined. Got a bit of a tide mark there. Right. Still, now that for now that issue seems to be out of the way, how's everyone's week been? It's still been fairly chill over here. Nothing new other than just trying to mentally prepare myself for going back to work sometime next month, whenever that's actually going to end up being. Short. Yeah, Mr. Staying in as late as I do and then working. Honestly, that's something it's one of the few things I look forward to about work. It gives me enough structure that I actually get up at a decent enough human hour. At least presuming that I'm not working evenings again. Can't tell how big of an assumption that is. So what are the final steps? Currently, we're cleaning up the skin, just to redefine it. Going to be highlighting the black leather, adding some extra highlights to the brown, brightening up the silver, some extra highlights on the red, I think. Basing, which we started while we were having those technical difficulties. The base of the circle of his base is now an ochre, which I am going to be putting a sand paint on. Other than that, yeah, it's just getting those final highlights in to push everything that little bit extra. Should be relatively simple and straightforward, I say. Though, of course, these are the finicky bits where it's the least amount of paint being put on the model, but it's some of the larger changes. It's usually how it is towards the end. Anything can happen, and when they do happen, you gotta fix them. But honestly, this is probably the most satisfying bit because it's when stuff finally starts looking right after having it look a bit meh for so long. So that's the highlight. Mike's a touch quieter this week. It is a bit further from my mouth, but that is me trying to stop any popping. I did just have to reset the audio, just because it tried to default back to my normal laptop mic, so that might be part of it too. Hopefully that's helped a little bit. Just getting a little bit more pink in. There we go. We don't need to treat the pink as like the darkest tone. It is there for a little bit of vibrancy. Dear, no, I don't get ASMR. Like, I've had the effect described to me, and I suppose I'm just one of those people that's never had it. It's like, isn't it meant to be like something that gives you like a load of goosebumps, just from like someone talking in a specific tone or octave or something? I get goosebumps, but mostly from certain other things. Like, sometimes it'll happen to you when listening to music. Sometimes something will just hit and you'll get all prickly. But that is the skin. Relatively cleaned up. I still do need to fix his nose a little bit because I missed some areas. So let me just get a little bit more warpstone back on the palette. It's looking like a bit of a chiller stream tonight, which ain't the worst. Yeah, let me just concentrate. This might be one of the ones where I am a bit quieter just because of the extra breath holding I have to do for certain details. I'll do unsatisfying ASMR. Yeah, I could see you trying that. Get your couple drinks in you, and you are like the antithesis to the practice. Something about his nose is just looking off. Don't know what I've done wrong. Trying to figure this out. What have I done? What have I done? I think the underneath here is just a little too bright in comparison to the rest of it. So I'll just turn that down. And then, hopefully, I think also I've not joined the bottom of his nose up properly with the rest of his face. So I just need a little bit more of the green there too. That's looking a bit better-ish. Ish? I actually can't tell. That's looking better on camera, at least. I already need to turn my lights on. It is getting dim in here, quick. I thought days were meant to be getting longer. Just a moment. Alright, there we go. I can actually see. Despite the lights, when everything else is dark, it makes it difficult to see anything else. In fact, that is quiet, isn't it? Does that help? No. I am getting all the technical issues, but at least my frames are stopped. Tool settings, audio. Yeah, Corsair, volume range. Oh, is this what does it? Did that help? If I apply, look with my special eyes. That, it doesn't seem... Actually, I don't know. That might be a little higher than it was. Oh, hold on. There we go. That looks no different. It made sense in practice. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it does just need to be right up next to my mouth. Hold on, let me just grab a drink. Ah, I also don't know what the delay is between me and you guys. So I don't know how long it's going to take for you guys to get any benefit from that small change I just made. If there is one. But yeah. Nose is nose. It's looking better now. It does just need that little extra highlight to actually show off the changes I just made a bit better. Orc noses with a little piggy snouts. Strangely specific, so yeah. Back to the scar snake. It does sound a touch louder again. Yeah, I just changed. I found the setting that makes XSplit actually amplify my audio a little bit. Couple seconds, that was like 10 seconds there. But, there we go. That does seem to have helped, which is good. So just going to re-highlight his nose, got the tip of it. That's a bit much, but can highlight it, well, tone it back down. That is looking a bit better, especially on camera. If it was in the light. Yeah, that's actually looking like a nose now, rather than just a random lump. So I've just put a little bit too much on, but I type slow on PS4, lol. Yeah, typing with a controller sounds like a mess. Though it does make me think there's a video I watched last night that was about the types of controls that allowed for, like, I think it's Smash Bros. Or Melee specifically, competitive play. And there is some weird stuff out there. Like, granted, some make sense, like, what was it that was banned? Well, obviously turbo buttons were banned and macros are banned, so like your button presses aren't being mechanically inputted for you. But then there's weird things like it was like an arcade stick, but it wasn't a stick because it was emulating a GameCube controller. Smash Bros with a microwave. Honestly, that'd probably unlock a new technique in the game. I swear there was at least a short time where people found a new tech by literally breaking their controller or something ridiculous. Right, so his face is now looking a bit up to snuff. I am going to actually brighten up his eyes a little bit, because they do just look like dark little pits. But yeah, onto the thing I was actually trying to say. The Phantasy Star Online GameCube controller with a built-in keyboard, 1, is a thing. 2, is legal in tournaments because the keyboard does literally nothing outside of Phantasy Star Online. I just found that weird. It was just a long GameCube controller. Granted, Melee competitive just looks like such a weird scene to me. It's like 90% of what you do is just like, oop, touch my camera there, pushing the game to its limits, or just breaking some of the janky 20-year-old programming. There we go. You might not be able to see his eyes too well at home, but they are now a little brighter. I think part of the issue is I do need to brighten up his top lip there a little bit. That's why it's looking a bit weird. Having such a lot of brightness around his eyes and his nose, but so little around his mouth. Need a little bit more of the red off. Red is a bit of a stainy paint. Is what's making the face look that unbalanced to me. Then again, now that I think about it, a lot of competitive scenes do just tend to be like, hey, how do we break this game to where it works? Well, like, what's the limit? Let's find out. If it gets unfair, they'll probably ban us from doing it. There we go. And just need to bring in teeny tiny lines. Problem with having such small amount of paint on your brush is that even when you're picking it up wet, it can still dry on you very quickly. That's a bit much, but again, I can turn that back. Hopefully, yeah, I can keep these streams going as a habit. Like I say, next week, presuming I do get this guy finished off, might just do something a bit different other than painting, just for the sake of doing something different, honestly. Don't want to just lock myself into this, as much as I do enjoy this. There we go, that's looking a bit better to me, even if my camera is not giving me all my frames. There we go. There's also the issue of having a wireless camera currently, is that sometimes this drops frames different from XSplit, and it doesn't always show me. But once I get that capture device up and running, that should become less of an issue. Presuming I get it up and running. They just reset me now. I've just dropped a couple more frames there. Oh, we'll just keep going. Let's see. Let's carry on with the eyes. I did just touch them up with a bit of Wazdaka. They're brighter for me here, but they're still not really showing up for you guys at home. So let us grab an orange. Go with Jacaro. Which is a bit of a paler orange, if it's on screen. Don't make it look like his eyes are burning bright, like I've done on Gazgul, but still gives them that little bit of extra heat, just from climbing up the colour values a little bit. So just hold my breath for a moment. And a dot there. Yeah, there we go. And a dot there. Again, I think it's showing up for me, especially when my camera goes out of focus, a lot more than it's showing up for you. The brow of his hat just seems to be blocking a lot of light. Hold on, let me just tinker with something. Does that help at all? Yeah, that does it. I just have to completely change and hold onto one of my lights. But yeah, his face is now looking a bit more proper. Right, next step. Let's get the reds of his trousers and his bracelet. I went up to Wazdaka again, but I don't want to go to the orange like I did his eyes just. So maybe I go for a peach. Yeah, because that might look like the leather's lost a bit of colour too. Okay. In fact, maybe not a peach, but a different ochre. So I've had an ochre for the base, and now there's a small yellow ochre that I'm going to do for the leather. In fact, I'm doing all this, I should really just get the sand on his base. Let me just pop that there, so I remember it. I've got the Agrellan Earth there. I just need a big spade of a brush to put this sand on. So I'm just going to swap over to this thing. Not my biggest, but it's not a big base. Let's not take that out of context now. And this stuff, you literally have to pick up in scoops like that. And then I'm just going to sort of mold it on. A little, doesn't matter if a little bit gets onto stuff like his boots. This is a long brush and I'm hitting my lights. Or onto his crate there. It's in the middle of the sand, so it's naturally just going to shift about and get on things. But this is basically like a moose. I'm getting a lot on his shoe there. A lot more than I would like. Let me just get the rest. I might have just picked up too much paint, in all fairness. Yeah, I think I did. Let's try and scoop that up. And when I scoop it up, I can see the grit showing a bit more. Yeah, just dab that. Doesn't matter if I get a bit on the side of the base, because I can just wipe it off. Yeah, so I've got it all over. Clean off the brush. And I need to pick up that excess there that I put on. Oh well, overcompensated. Better too much than too little. Let us just try and get it off of his boot. And move it somewhere else. Should have done this maybe a little early, because this stuff can take quite a while to dry. But it doesn't take as long as the Agrellan Earth, which I could have also used. Which again, if that was actually on stream when I explained it, is like a thick paste like this, but instead of having grit built into it, it's naturally inclined to split as it dries into big lumps. Just need to keep watering that down around his shoe. I'll put a little bit of the watered down stuff on his other shoe here actually, just to make it look like he's been getting some dirt on his feet. It should help sell that. Might not look the most powdery, but it'll look like something. And let's just pick up that excess moisture with a dry brush. There we go. In fact, let's get a little bit more on the side and back of his boot here. There we go. And we can wait for that to dry while we work on everything else. In fact, I'm just going to quickly pop him off of the stand and just wipe my thumb around the edge just to help get that grit off of the side of his base, because I want that to still be smooth. Doesn't matter if I still get a bit of the paint colour on there, going to be painting the rim of his base black as is standard, but we shall get there. Also, I now have paint all over my thumb. It's a wonderful thing. It doesn't feel gross at all. Right, but still, I can pop you back in. Basing, that's like 90% of the basing done. Just need to wait for that to dry, hit it with a wash, maybe a bit of a dry brush, boom. Sand and dirt, easiest thing to paint in the universe. Right. Yes, I was going to move on to his trousers and his bracelet, which was going to be this orangey ochre. Again, picking this because orange is just naturally the next colour up in the rainbow, so it looks like a natural highlight, and it being a little bit more on the desaturated side will help it look a bit like worn cloth. Won't be the most convincing thing in the world, but all we need to do is give that impression, and people will fill in the rest with their brains. Which, again, highlighting, it's a weird stage because you use the most time in terms of, well, the most time per like amount of paint. Like, you are putting on tiny amounts of paint, but there's a lot of thinking of what colour and where and how much and how thick do I do this line, and does that look right, or is it just because it's a wet paint? I need to wait for it to dry. It's effort. Thankfully, when you're doing such a... I need to clean that up, but red should cover it easy. When you're doing such sort of saturated-ish colours, yeah, it's a bit too much above his kneecap, but we shall fix that momentarily when we go back to Wazdaka. It's easier to cover up when you make mistakes. Bright colours cover bright colours really easily. And this other leg, big meaty orky thighs. This one needs a fewer lines just in general, just because it's lowered down. It's starting to dry on my brush. I think it's because it's actually been warmer today as well. The paint's just drying faster. That's why I usually tend to get most of my painting done in the winter. And I tell you what, I could have gotten more done this winter, but I have certainly got a lot done in terms of my marines. There we go, that thigh looks pretty fine. Me and Defit don't get along so well. Yeah, though, ironically, because I was talking to Ryan about his demons, if you wanted to pick up Deathwing again, they are in a fucking good place right now tactically. Like, they are one of the, out of all the marine codexes out there, I'll say codexes, it's a codex and a supplement. Deathwing are strong, like, capital S strong right now, just because they're like almost impossible to kill in a turn. That plus, I have been practicing my bone with this fucker. Lionel ain't back yet. Everyone wants him back. He ain't back yet. Yeah, I ended up over winter painting up a little Deathwing Marine just for the sake of it. Not done, but quite happy with how he came back out. Yeah, I know. We got Gilman back. Big boy Blue Scout. Big Blue Boy Scout, even. Sanguinius is dead. Ferris's head is still chopped off. Khan and Lehman Russ. How did I forget his name? They freaking named a tank after him. Yeah, he is looking quite nice. Practicing my greens because I don't tend to paint green the most. Yeah. Pretty much all the other like loyal Primarchs are either dead or MIA. Meanwhile, the Chaos ones are running about doing what the hell they feel like, or a couple of them are dead. Right, so, oh yeah, still need to do his bracelet. But yeah, Deathwing are in a good place. You've got like 4 different types of Terminators. Yeah, his head is still chopped off. Look, Gilman was meant to be like permanently in like stasis from being almost killed. It took the Eldar showing up and saying, "Hey, we've got like premature death god powers coming up. Do you want us to help revive him? Get someone back in the driver's seat of your society?" Yeah, sure, why not? Like, poor Ferris, like Iron Hands Primarch, called Ferris Marinus, which is Latin for Iron Hands. Also had Iron Hands. Had his head chopped off. That is a sad life of such a boring name and getting decapitated by one of your best friends. Yeah, but this is it's 40k. It's basically space magic. So Gilliman's running around again. Well, that was like the whole like story plot of 8th editions. Like, oh hey, Gilliman's back. Primaris Marines are now a thing. Also, shit's still fucked. Also, the galaxy is torn in half. Physically, not even politically. But yeah. Deathwing in a strong place right now. The inner circle rule, combined with some of the other things that army can do, just makes them incredibly tough. Yeah, that's bringing out that edge a little bit. Now, plus the fact that Marines are now multi-wounds as standard. So tactical Marines ain't running around with a single wound. Veteran Marines, for the most part, running around with 3 wounds. Granted, that's partially because most armies have access to a lot of weapons that can do multiple wounds in a single shot. The game is sort of amped up in a few ways, and gone the other way in another. Yeah, I know some of these words. Yeah. Look, the lore isn't important to 40k, it's just how they justify a lot of the bullshit. Just know Big Daddy had like 20 sons. 10 of them, well, 8 of them turned bad, 8 of them stayed with Daddy. 2 of them got wiped from Imperial records because they did something. And now most of them are dead, and that happened 10,000 years ago. It does kind of make sense. The way I remember, a normal dude could one-shot a Marine with the flashlight. It's Gandalf's. They do have Gandalf miniatures, but that's because they have a Lord of the Rings game. Yeah, having a Marine one-shot to buy a lasgun now, it didn't make sense. And that is now no longer a thing. I was saying to Pixel the other day, just a lot has changed in the game these past couple of editions. And a lot of it is to make things feel more like how they're meant to, and a lot of them is just like crazy tactics you can pull off. And just all like I say, a single Deathwing Terminator is a 3 wound model. It's got 3 hit points. Same like toughness as a normal Marine, but a 2-up armor save, 4-up invuln. So even if your armor does get reduced, you still have a 4-up. And then Inner Circle saying like, oh, you can't be wounded on a higher roll than a 4-up. You get shot by a las gun, a las cannon. still a 4-up. You get smacked in the face by an earth-shattering missile, wounds on a 4-up. The best chances of any weapon has of hurting a Deathwing Terminator is 50-50. And that's before you even do armor saves, and before you take into account that a Terminator can take 3 points of damage before it dies. That is a car being revved outside. Don't know if that's... It's not being picked up. Sweet. But yeah, they are chunky fuckers. And then freaking Dreadnoughts have been given a massive buff, which is just hilarious, because I love my Dreadnoughts just as much as anyone else. And Dreadnoughts basically now having a rule saying, like, if something does multiple points of damage to this unit, it does 1 point less. So they just aren't getting hurt by anything big. They're getting hurt by anything big, but they're getting hurt by anything big just as likely as they're getting hurt by a punch to the face. Literally, a Space Marine punching a Space Marine is 4-up to hurt. And that's about as good as anything else is going to hurt them. So they still can die to a lot of loads of little guns shooting at them. Don't rely on, say, an Imperial Knight stepping on them, killing them, being more likely, though. They are tough buggers. And that's not even getting into the stratagems that I can't remember half of. Right, yes, so just on the red, I wanted to tone down that little bit on his thigh above the kneecap. There we go. In fact, I'll just erase that for the most part. Yeah. Yeah, it's what technically right now. Despite the fact that there are currently, I think, 3 9th edition codexes, being Space Marines and the supplements for individual chapters, Necrons, and Dark Eldar. Dark Angels specifically are, if you wanted to be competitive, it's Warhammer. Being competitive is like 2% of the player base's intent. But if you wanted to, Deathwing can. Almost certainly can. Right, yes, next I wanted to do the levers. I want to avoid just using a flat grey, because that would be just kind of boring. Might want to use sort of a bluish grey just to bring in a little bit more colour. What's the best one for this? I'm on Corvus. Give me a moment, I'm just thinking. Do we go? No, that's too blue. Yeah, we'll go with Dark Reaper, which is sort of like a... It's still very grey, still very blue. Well, sort of a teal, really. Like I say, you could literally just like grab the models you had from when I did convince you to play for a couple of years way back when, plop them on a table, make sure they're sort of like at least looking vaguely white or green or whatever. Yeah, you would probably have a pretty strong army, considering as well that you've got, in terms of units, you've got Deathwing Terminators, you've got Deathwing Knights, you've got Relic Terminators, which are a new-ish unit. We still need to play Deathwing the game at some point. Yeah, because your computer couldn't handle it without exploding. Deathwing Terminators. Technically, you can have some Primaris units now in the inner circle. I believe that's mostly the Blade Guard, which are like Primaris veterans. I mean, Brace Grey is a form of white. Yeah, you could do white. You could literally just like spray them, because this Wraithbone is available as an aerosol as well, and I used that to base that guy I showed earlier, and then used a sort of a sepia ink. Do I have it here? Not Snakebite, I want Skeleton Horde. Doesn't show well because these things are basically a wash, but most of that guy was literally this paint over that white, and it's a good way to get sort of like inky, sort of like just inky sort of like colours. So it's surprisingly easier to paint those sort of colours now. And if you wanted to add a bit of green, well, painting just bright saturated colours over white is like literally the whole point of basing something white. Oh yeah, that is working though for his leather. Don't know if it's showing up, but just a little bit. Ooh, just got that on his leg. Just a little bit there. Just going to continue trying to carry on. Just adding a bit of blue. I might need to add another highlight to the leather. Just to add a little bit more contrast. Definitely need to add more Dark Reaper to the base. Yeah, I know me and Ryan. I'll just keep trying to call him Pixel. Don't want to keep calling him his real name in chat. You're asking me to art. Look, it's literally spray can cover in goop. It is the easiest thing in the world. It's as much art as farting is playing an instrument. It gets the job done. You make a sound, and if that's all you're after, there you go. You've done it. In fact, could I make a demonstration? Nah, I can't be asked. I might show off contrast paints in another stream because they are very good for especially a lot of detailed organic shapes with them basically just being like a really thick ink. They're basically how I paint half of my marines now. Just yellow, pain in the ass colour. Guess I'll use a yellow ink. Yeah, that's showing up. As artist focus that is, would you sit in the wind section in an orchestra? I mean, yeah, you can play an instrument. You can play the plinky plonk. And you know what? That did remind me as a kid, I always wanted to learn the trumpet. And then I found out how loud they were, and it's like, no thank you. That is loud. That is a loud brass. I'm just not a musical person. Like, I enjoy music. I'm just not a musical creator. All about that brass. I think you've practiced enough, Al. Yeah. And Guitar Hero doesn't count. It has never counted. Now, if we are talking about our brass section, L is also fairly proficient at that one, as I'm sure Pixel can attest to. Yeah, adding a bit of blue to the leather was a good idea. So, considering our delay, I'm probably going to go till about 9:45 tonight. It's 8:30. You can't deny this. Yeah, we've all been in the passenger seat in a long enough car ride to find out the hard way. There you go, trombone. I'm like tromboner. I didn't even watch Beavis and Butthead as a kid. I didn't get MTV. Like, I didn't get it as in it wasn't a channel I could watch on my TV. Not that I didn't understand it. I understood it when it played music videos, and that is the joke everyone makes when it played music videos. Probably still plays some occasionally now. It's just not where the money is. If you want to listen to music, you just load up Spotify or YouTube, alright? Do people still use iTunes? I'm sure someone out there still uses iTunes. In fact, I think my dad does, which says enough. Got a bit of the blue on that tooth. There we go. Just like that, a large part of our leather is done. Well, talking about trombones. What MTV even stand for? I mean, it's meant to stand for music television. At least I think that was the idea. But yeah, that leather looking a little bit brighter now. So I am going to still touch it up a little bit more because it could be Malaysian television. For all we know, like the national Malaysian TV channel is probably called something along those lines. That's staggered on. I want to go for is that Fenrisian or Russ? Oh, what are you doing over there? Fenrisian would be too bright anyway. Let's go with Russ. Martian termite videos. I mean, they got to do their, Earth research somehow. But yeah, just moving up to Rust Grey just to hit some of the higher parts of the leather. Maybe hopefully Can't talk today. Make it look a little shinier. Just gonna touch. Ooh, got a bit too much on my brush there. It just means it's gonna dry up on me faster. There we go. Just gonna touch some of the sharpest and highest points. Just add that little bit extra. Malaysian television Lamau. You really are slow at typing on that PS4. Right, there we go. It's most of the colour that I wanted to do there. Hit a little bit around this edge just to help separate it from his arm. That basic material is now almost dry as well. It's just some of the thicker lumps that I'm still waiting on. Then I can hit it with a wash, which will probably be done by the time we're done everywhere else. This is going smoothly. I have far too much practice painting my toy soldiers. I do find it funny because Alice sent, yeah, as if that's an Isaac as well. Alice did send me. There's I think it's a magazine called War Game something, and Alice sent me that they were hiring for like I think it was like a World War II historical painting job, which have fun with the color green there, which was a little tempting. I had been sent it by someone else the other day as well. It would just involve moving up. I think it was in Nottingham, like everything else for this industry seems to be. Which I've toyed with the idea before, moving up to Nottingham if I were to ever get lucky enough to do something like this. But it's also the case of I describe it as getting lucky enough. Do I want to? Like, would I want to in like realistic terms? That has been a bit of a debate. I've still got like job alerts for specifically GW stuff, just as like a little allowed peek behind the curtain. But that's still something I'm debating, especially after having helped with my LGS for so long. You should apply anyway and ask if you can work from home. Again, a tempting proposition. It probably would hurt my chances of getting that line of work. I believe it was mostly for writing tutorial articles and photographing your stuff. But again, I don't know. I don't know if it's something I actually want to do. Post-COVID world now. Yeah, to be fair, I've said it before. The idea of searching for a different job once I'm back into the flow of actually working again is appealing to me, and asking like, oh, how did your company, help its employees during the pandemic? It's going to be a very good question to ask if they ask for any questions at the end of an interview, just to see what they say. See if you can find anything saying anything to the contrary, be it reports or employee testimonies, and using that. What's the quote? You miss 100%. It's not about missing the shot. It's like, do I actually want to take the shot? Is this something I want? That's the question more than anything. Like, I would have applied to for the manager for the local games workshop if that interview opportunity didn't pop up literally around about the time I started furlough, which made things a little awkward. Because our official furlough said, yeah, you can find other work in the meantime, but this first job here that we're giving you furlough for is your priority. It's like, yeah, anything I would want to apply for after the current job would probably be what I would want to take as priority. It is only so much longer I want to be in hospitality. As much as the benefits it does have, some of the benefits. The worst part's the customers, the best part are the co-workers that help you out. Let's put it that way. It's only so much longer I want to be in that sort of industry. I say that as if it's like a career. It's a job. Those are very different things. Anyway, I'm just blabbering at the moment, but we're getting this leather done. Starting to look pretty sweet right now. Yeah, there we go. I think that is all leather. Full-time streamer, yeah, in Magical Christmas Land, maybe. That is the majority of our leather done now, I think. Yeah. Might go in with a little bit of like actual pure black, just to touch up some bits. What next? What next? I want to say the browns. Base is still drying. In that case, we went from the chocolatey Morngast, is it? Mornfang brown. Stranger things have happened, Dan. Yeah, yeah. And it feels like anything in this sort of field is about 90% luck. And let's move up from that chocolatey brown to Scrag. What a wonderful name for a colour. Which is sort of an orangey brown, which should help liven up our brown leathers a little bit more. Like, I've always liked the idea of maybe teaching, but then it's children. I say, after I helped a little bit with the nephew today. One child is fine. 30, no. I am not dealing with that. Yeah, there we go. That is just helping a lot pop up. That plus I would, despite the fact that I went to university that specialises in teaching degrees, I would like teaching too. Yeah, that specialises in teaching degrees. I just did not get a teaching qualification. It's like, I don't know, maybe like private tuition would probably be more my bang. One-on-one, teach a very specific thing, have maybe like next to no clients every year and struggle. I don't know. Again, Magical Christmas Land. There's a bunch of things I would like to do that probably just aren't feasible right now. And when I say right now, I mean under the current economic climate, under the leadership of Mr. Let the Bodies Hit the Floor. There we go. That's making that brown pop. Again, it's not showing up amazingly on camera, but in person. Actually, it's showing up a lot better on the ear flap. Gotta have the right mindset for teaching. Yeah, I imagine 90% of it is just patience. That plus, in terms of actual schools, because I won't say names, but X's mother was a teaching assistant, and there are, let's just say, there's quite a bunch of times where the intent of teaching butts heads with the logistics in the syllabus. Like the way you're meant to teach and the way everything that makes sense in your brain is telling you how to teach are two very different things. And that's apparently half the frustration with the work, from what I remember. It's just like, if you did it this way, it would be so much better and we'd actually be doing our jobs. But if we do it different from the way we're being told how to do it, we could lose the jobs. So yay. Again, that's out of focus, but that is showing up a bit better. Could tidy up a little bit on that actual pistol pouch, but brown is just apparently being a very quick colour for me to paint. Granted, I say brown is a boring colour, but it has its uses. One of them is just being good. It's just very easy to make brown look good. Brown is very good at making other colours look good. The belt, just going to hit the bottom edge of that. And the top edge up here, just to make sure it looks like it exists. Get a little bit of this twine on this skull. Man, I can't wait to actually get my camera working properly for this. I have the capture device. It just turns out that the family camcorder, its HDMI output is a mini HDMI, when the capture device is just a pure normal HDMI. So I need to find me an adapter, and then hopefully I can get much higher quality images. If I keep this up long enough, I can justify streaming in 1080p from actually subscribing to XSplit. Plenty of ways to go up, just for the sake of it, because it's apparently what I like to do with hobbies. It's just like, how can I make this better? What can I do to improve constantly? But I'd like to think that's a healthy approach. That's how I've done this. Struggling to talk today. Don't know why. I'm a little low energy today, just from like waking up a bit late, babysitting. Well, I say babysitting. It helped a little bit. Give myself too much credit there. Getting a little bit of shopping done, and then trying to squeeze that all in before this, because I woke up late. It was a fun few hours. That just like just trying to improve. Improvement for its own sake is something I like. It's probably why I've been a little bit too ham with the card games, because it's like, hey, I can see the ways to improve, but some of the ways to improve in that sort of thing are just very boring. There we go, and let's just do that a little bit more on the ear flap, and that's all brown leather done. Not that you could tell. Especially when I'm dropping a few more frames on the camera. There we go. Yeah, you can see, especially on that ear flap, that really brightens up the edge and makes it a bit more visible. I'm going to move this light. Like that. Does that help? Messes with the colour balance a bit. What I need is I need a light behind this. I need a ring light, I think, is what I need if I'm going to improve my lighting next. That was the brightest setting. That way I can have the camera have light in the same direction it's facing. That would probably also need another stand. And I only have so much space. So we'll see how we get on. Then again, I order a tripod. I've ordered a camera tripod, and then I order a ring light. Is the Amazon courier going to think I'm doing something else? To phrase it in the most awkward way possible. Right. Done skin, done leather, both leathers. Let's see if we can't get these fluffs a little brighter. Considering I did that base white and then coloured in a wash, I can just probably go with this next, just to add a little bit extra pop to some of the little puffs. Alright, how long's this one been going? Yeah, okay, we're good still. Like I say, probably about 9:45 tonight. That'll go up to GMT. And it is currently... So yeah, we're halfway through. There's still... Honestly, I might have a little extra time at the end, just to discuss an idea I had for next week's stream. Had a little bit of paint dry on the... Ooh, still had some brown in my bristles. I need to get the paint soap out. I was actually toned down the paint a bit too much for me. There we go. A little bit of brush soap never hurt. You can actually see the brown leaching out of the paintbrush and into the soap, which is nice. Just have to try... Well, I mix it up, so I should be able to avoid that little splotch there. Let's put that there instead. Hey, so yeah, getting some of the little bits of fluff on his hat. Just gonna add a little bit to some of these on the top edge. Just to brighten it up, add a bit more interest, make it look a little bit more clean, because even the fluff, it could grab onto some dirt and some dust that isn't going to get as bad as some of the flat solid stuff like the leathers and the metals. Again, I don't know if this is in focus. Camera, You can do it. You just did it for a second there. That'll do. That'll do, pig. And just the ones facing forward as well. Have some of them at the back facing part of his hat still stay a little dirty. Just to add a little bit of contrast. Can also use this whilst I've got it on my brush. Highlight his teeth. Ooh, actually get some on his lips. Just to brighten them up too. There we go. Help them look a little sharper. This little trophy tooth. There we go. Nothing makes something look sharp by just adding a load of contrast to it. Again, it isn't showing up amazingly on camera, but I'm going to show you in person. Going to definitely be taking a photo of this once we're done this evening, just to show how it actually, or at least close to how it actually looks. Because even then, cameras can still lie a little bit for you. There we go. Let's just, I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm not going to touch each one individually. Just going to lightly pass this brush whilst it's a bit wet over these, so I just catch some of them. Yeah, that saves me about half of an hour of work, or feels like it. There we go. Looking a bit sharper. Let's get a bit more on this tooth here. Again, I need lights forward facing. Could I cheat actually? Can I grab some stuff I have over here and build a little light stand? Be a moment, I'm being inventive. For those who can't see, I am literally grabbing a bunch of playing card deck boxes, stacking them up behind me because they just happen to be an arm's length. And how does it look if I do this? Worse, apparently. Oh, why is there the optimal place for you? Oh, that is precarious. Let's compare. So there. No, that is just worse. It's more even. It's just overall darker. Which is annoying. Oh well, maybe it's just that I need a third light. And I knocked one over. Hooray. Oh well. Experiment done. Right, I think the majority, I say majority, of what we need to do now is probably just the metallics. Which, how's our base looking? Still a little damp. Hold on. It's mostly this place here. Yeah, that's still a bit too soft. If I put a wash on that, it would just mix with the wash and make it cloudy. So let us get onto our metallics. Done Iron Warriors, done a wash. I think I can move on to a little bit of lead belcher. Just to get a little bit of extra brightness on the metal. Thankfully, it's one of those paints I have in abundance, because it is like the basics of the basics for metallics. Ooh, that needed a bit more shaking. Sort of turned into a weird, slightly sticky mess, but a little bit more of a shake, and yeah, that is smooth as I knock the model. So mix that up. Can't use, well, don't want to use the wet palette with the metallics, just to be on the safe side, and in fact, just use a bigger brush. Just use this thing I've had lying on the side for ages. Make sure it is clean. Yeah, I'm leaching some red out of that. Also, the bristles were a little stiff, so this is probably going to help clean them out. Probably use these with a wash or something really thin, and I got into the ferrule. And you know what? One day I'm hoping to actually get some music playing on one of these. Still haven't probably figured it out. That Nightbot thing I think Pixel mentioned is actually more of a Twitch moderator type thing. Anything else would require me to have like a browser open playing the music, I think. And even then I couldn't get too much of the sound. For some reason, it picked up You guys sending me Facebook messages last week still doesn't pick up music also playing in a video in a browser. Don't get that. Unless it's encoded differently or like it can tell the difference. I don't know. Yeah, a bit of lead belcher, which is a fairly bright metal in comparison. Gonna use that as like initial highlights. Not gonna cover everything, but just gonna help make some things look nice and shiny, like any dirt is slowly being rubbed off. Again, if you would like the focus camera, thank you. Leaving the darker parts a little matte, but leaving our brighters nice and shiny should help add a little bit more interest and contrast. And that is what you want. Gonna leave the highest because I'm gonna hit that with an even brighter silver in a moment. Don't need to be too neat with this. Anything else is just gonna make it look like metal has been buffed. Front of the barrel, side of the barrel, at least the top edge of the barrel, and I might need to touch it up in some places, but I can just do that with some black paint. And because I thin this down, we're getting a bit of translucency, which is nice. Let's just get the other side there. There we go. I am going to get this iron sight mostly silver, just because it is the top of the pistol. Yeah, and a little bit of this outer edge, just to make it look a little less weird. There we go. Don't need to be precise, ironically, with metal. You'd think you'd need to be precise, but especially when you're painting dirty metal, you can just go ham. Might stipple it in a couple places just to make it look a bit grubby. And don't even mind if I get a little bit of it on this skull. It's going to make it look like warm paint. There we go. That's mostly it for the pistol. Maybe a bit at the back. Yeah. Gonna switch to laptop BRB. Okay, catch you in a moment. I might actually need to tone down that iron sight. Actually, it is looking bright compared to the rest of the pistol. Let's get this funny hat. Gonna get top half of the spike with this. Again, in focus please, thank you. Problem is, my laptop is currently to the left of me. So if I need to check, I've got to turn my head a whole 45 degrees. Gonna buff this top edge section on that side. It's a weird thing with it. It looks half finished when you've done like a bit of it, but then you do all of it. It's like, oh, suddenly that makes sense. It's like that weird hard edge between the different finishes and colours just suddenly blends itself a little bit once it's all in like context with the rest. Let's get the top of his shoe. Just ignore some of the sandy colour that we've gotten on it. Just to brighten that up a little bit. And then he's got some toe spikes too, because why wouldn't an orc have toe spikes? You want to kick someone, you want them to remember it. There we go, top of the toe spikes. The one on this side. Let's get the front of the curve of this foot and the side of the toe cap. There we go. Onto the other shoe, which I am going to do a little less on because it's one underneath a lot more, two, it's got a lot more of the sort of dirty muck on it. Rivets on his leather things. Ooh, got a bit on the actual edge. Then I am going to get the front, like the actual front of the bullets, the actual sharp pointy bit that fires out of the casing. There's a few more bullets down here though. Which ones can I see? See this one, this one, this one. A lot of them are sort of buried under themselves. So good. Knife. It's going to catch the edges first, just to bring them out. Gonna Yeah, get the actual edge of the knife, and I'm going to bring the brush up in the direction the knife would actually be slashing, just to add some texture whilst I get the rest of the silver. This is looking a bit too contrasty here at the moment. Maybe I can knock it back a little bit. Get the edge of that, get the edge of that, the edge of that, edge of that. Maybe just cover all of that there. There we go, that's looking a little better. That's looking like a bit of a meaner knife. Literally just two little brush strokes made that look from like to yeah, that would stab me. No, that would hurt. Let's just see if I can't replicate it here on the other side. Don't know how well that's showing up on camera. Again, if you would like to focus, mister. And then brushing up with the actual knife strike, getting those edges, getting the majority of that flat. I did notice that the actual official model does have a design painted on the flat of the blade. It's like a sort of a black and white checker, but that looks like a lot of effort for a knife. Granted, I just did all that effort on that flat of the knife and you can barely see it just because of the pose of the model. But these are the times we live in. What else have we got for metallics? There's the chain coming off of the pommel, which just need a little bit of an overbrush on. There we go. We can catch the links without getting too much of the actual crevices, nooks and crannies, whatever you want to call them that doesn't sound as rude. This is actual shoulder pad, I almost forgot about that. So let me just find a comfortable angle. Does that work for me? Sure. Just gonna stipple and tap that about, just add a little bit of texture. Because I imagine a shoulder pad like this is going to take in a fair bit of abuse over however long. And then top off of the spikes on all sides. And then he's got the actual edge, which is a bit hidden behind the golden bit. So I'm just going to have to be careful about how I do this line. So there we go. A little bit more at the front. There we go, and we actually have an edge. Wonderful. Let's get a little bit more of those spikes just to bring them out a little. Yeah, it's looking a bit better. Ooh, yeah, spikes on his bracelet. Gonna need them to have a little bit of a metallic pop. Still had a bit of that toned down and washed metal, but you need that little bit of extra sharpness, don't they? Let's get that. Let's get the inside of the hook of the blade as well, just for the sake of completion. There we go. Oh, and there's the teeth on the back of his jacket too, yeah. Let's see if I can't give them a little love, just to make them pop out. And then these rivets are what I'm going to hit with the bright silver. To be fair, this is a tooth and I didn't notice it. So I'm just going to hit that. I am going to use a little bit of the Nuln Oil to knock back some of the contrast. So I'll wash that with some when I get around to it too. Though to be fair, I think that's the next step for our metallics anyway. So, yeah, there are some bits where the metals are looking a little splotchy. So I'm going to bring out a black wash. Nuln. There we go. Just to help ease the edges a little bit. Sort of blur the lines between different textures and not luminosity. What's the phrase? Luminance? You know what I mean. Shiny and not shiny. Yes, this iron sight especially. Just gonna knock that back. Wipe off a little bit. Knock that back. Yeah, that way we get a few more tones of metal as well, and it looks a little bit random still. Oops, starting to get windy out. the hat, I'm just going to cover it all over because the shape is going to help spread the wash out a little bit. Just naturally. Specularity, yes, thank you. I knew there was a phrase that I learnt in Maya that I used to describe this. There we go, just going to hit where those two edges meet a little bit. Again, doesn't show up. There we go, and that's helping contrast that a little bit more. Hit that tooth. To be fair, I do find it weird that I learned this around about the same time I was learning Maya in college. With the strange... Ooh, got these teeth here. Considering the strange amount of overlap there is even, between the two practices. Because this is what I'm basically doing is traditional texture mapping. And just get it under the foot as well. There we go. But I just find this not easier, but like it just jives with me better in actual like texture mapping. Don't know why. If there was a way to actually texture a 3D model like this, that would be something I would try out. Let's get that shoulder pad a little bit darker too in places. There we go. Because we're using a black when we previously washed with a brown, that's also going to just help add a little bit of variation in tone too. Let's get that under the tooth. Yeah. And there's not really much I can do for the bracelet without knocking back the entire bracelet. So I'm just going to get the chain, figure out where to go next. Must I wait for that to dry? How is this for drying still? Still a bit soft. But we're getting there. I think next is the tiny bit of gold we got on the model. I think Cryptek alloy or Canoptek, whichever it is. This one here, Canoptek alloy, which is like a very, very light, almost sort of a rosy gold brass sort of colour. Going to be using that to highlight our gold. Again, using the same brush, straight from the pot. Brush is slightly damp. Just going to come and attack straight away. Let's roll the brush a little bit. Yeah, let's actually get a tip. There we go. Yeah, that works. It doesn't look overbearing, but actually does highlight it. Again, in person I can see the difference. Don't know how well it's actually going to be showing up on camera. Yeah, it's just one of the ways I like to add contrast to my metals. There's actual lights and darks in the values. There's, what was it John said, specularity. And then just saturation is another way to increase the contrast. Have your darkers be more saturated than your highlights. Not darker, more saturated than your highlights. You've got a 1, 2, 3 punch of looking a little different, which just helps it all stand out. Granted, I usually use purple for gold rather than just brown, but gold is better for, purple is better for fancy gold. There we go, that's showing up alright. Let's just get that rivet. Yeah. It's all about contrast. That's what they always burn into your skull in any tutorials on this. Because you need to be able to see the detail from a distance on the tabletop. So the more you push the contrast, the easier that is. And just getting a little fist pendant on that. Yeah. Even blurred you can see that. That's how it's working. That's how someone who needs glasses would see that. And wasn't wearing them at the time. Yeah, then the band on his shoulder pad, just gonna hit around the edges a little bit. This is actually finishing up a lot quicker than I thought it would. Probably gonna have a little bit of spare time at the end of this stream. Gonna hit it under that hole where a rivet popped out. Looks like we still need a little bit extra wash there on the steel. Thankfully, I think I've just finished off highlighting the gold. Yeah. for the most part. It's a bit messy, but this is an orc, so whatever. Let us just touch up that bit I saw just before I forget, which was just underneath this spike where it meets the shoulder pad. Yeah, most of that is also dry too, so I should be able to come in and attack it with the next colour soon. Which I think is now, unless I wanted to get that bone topped up. To be fair, I forgot to do the skull on the back of his jacket, so I'll get that done while I wait for that to dry, which I believe is this one here. There's another brown in. And then let's get this skull. Just get top of the nose, bit on the teeth. Want around the eye sockets to help them look a bit more there. I say the brow, but the brow is mostly covered up by string at the moment. Yeah, it's looking fine in person. Don't know while it's showing up on camera. Might need to push it a little bit more. So do a second layer because that was a little diluted. Again, yeah. And do the top of the skull just to help emphasize the volume of that cranium. Might actually hit that with, but yeah, let's prove a point to L. Where's that skeleton horde? So, like I said, for Deathwing, I have got this, if it's in focus, which was white, covered it with a wash. And I've tried to highlight it and it needs a bit more contrast. So let's use Skeleton Horde, the paint I suggested, and see what that does to the tone of this skull. I'm going to just load it up into my brush, and I am not going to be too precious about where I hit. And just blip, 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 blip. Just hit the entire thing. There we go. It's like a wash and a glaze at the same time. Obviously with it being wet, it's going to look shinier. But that is already pushing our contrast up quite a bit. Let's just get some of it off of the string there. And then we just got to wait for that to dry. And that's how you do bone. As this dries as well, because I might add a bit more, because of the weird surface tension of these paints, as it shrinks, it's going to pull itself away from the edges, so it's going to have even more contrast by the time it is dried. In fact, that might be too much. Let's put some on the edge of the base there, and it will find its way into the recesses. Sink in and dry. Yeah, it's literally, that's the whole point of contrast paints. The whole selling point is like, just base it with a light colour, whack this on top, boom, 90% of your paint job done if you want it done quick. They are great things. Granted, a lot of the best ways to use contrast paints is not the intended method. Like, I use them a lot as glazers. They're also very good for adding just like weathering and patches, just because of their weird surface tension. Like this guy is 90% contrast paints, yellow base, brown and orange inks, and a yellow. Well, yeah, brown and orange and a yellow contrast, just to add different shades. Touched up with a bit of the base yellow for the brightest points, and I have a half-dead marine. Right. Yeah, that's actually almost dry. And if it was in focus, come on camera, I'm trying to prove a point. I can then go back in with the original colour and add a little bit more highlights once that's completely dry. What I might suggest is what I do with my Space Marines, because on flat wide surfaces it can get a little blotchy. So I just go back in with a makeup brush, of all things, with the colour that I wanted its brightest, and just feather it, powder it all over the model. Covers up some of the blotchiness, gives me another colour to work with. I can then do the same a little lighter with a lighter colour for the edge highlights if I wanted a quick done marine. And that's the majority of the armour done. Right, that black seems to be mostly done. So, going to come in with the brightest silver I want to use on this guy and get those rivets and edges. So going in with Runefang Steel, which as you can see, very light. It's almost a metallic white if that were possible. And just going to use that to make these things look nice and sharp. Let's start with his head spike. Just on the edges. Grab that rivet. Yeah, that's showing up. Wonderful. Like, it looks fine to me, but it's whether or not the camera is showing it fine. Even if a bit cloudy. Let's just tap a little bit on, just for like the fact that his helmet is a bowl shape. Just get all the edges of these spikes. Run it along all the edges of this boxy pistol. Just to bring out those edges. This is why I love metallics. They're just super easy and quick to do when you know what you're doing. Run it along this edge here. Hold it at the right angle and I can hit both edges. Though this one's coming out a bit blotchy just because there's a bit more paint. It's not the end of the world. Do that. Get the top of the barrel, bottom of the actual exit hole. Along these edges, along that scratch. Try and grab these rivets. Back edge, back edge. And that is coming out a little powdery in places, which is helping sell the steel effect. Focus, please. Thank you. Yeah, that's actually looking pretty good for our pistol. I could then attack that with another brown, like wash or something, just to add a little bit more grime to it, because the brown colour is going to show a bit better on the lighter metals. See how I feel. Let's just get the shoulder pad spikes. Get this edge. Yeah. Back of the spikes. Rivet. Rivet. Ribbit. Ribbit. Turn into a frog. Bottom edge is already pretty bright looking, to be fair. Top of the rivets on his little crotch flap thing. There's no way to say that without it sounding rude. Some of the edges of his steel toe cap need to top up. I'm still considering getting a second palette just with metallics, just because going back and forth from pot to model constantly is feeling like so much more of a pain now that I'm used to using a palette. Look at that edge. It's looking a little messy, but it's metallics. Whatever. Get the top edge of this boot. Run it over for the chain. Run it along the edges for the knife. Doesn't matter if it looks a little messy. I've added a lot of texturing to this knife. Make sure I get scratch. Just run it over, run it over. Don't need to be precious with this. Nice thing about metallic paints being so shiny is if you make any mistakes, any light hitting it is also going to help hide those mistakes. Get that edge there. Get the tips of the spikes on his bracelet. I swear I've seen people actually wearing these in real life. Rivets on the pommel. Get the buckle for his bracelet showing. Ooh. I think I lost the feed for my camera there for a second. Hold on, let me recalibrate the quality. There we go. Cam's gone black. It should be back now. Yeah, I think it just dropped for a second there. Probably another connection issue. Like I say, I need to get... Oh, it's done it again. Whilst I was looking... Oh, it just straight up lost it with the camera now. Give me a moment. Wonder if folks downstairs are using a connection for anything. No recently used apps. Come on, give me the bloody screen. This phone can't decide whether it's facing up or down. And then turn the camera back on. Don't do this to me in the middle of a stream. We were almost done. Bloody hell. Oh, hey, there we go. Put it back at 1080. There we go. Yeah, bitrate did take a hit there. It's dipping and diving. Maybe a loose connection somewhere. But hey, I think that's fixed it at least temporarily. I'm going to keep an eye on it. Just minimize that. Oop, accidentally full screen chat. That is not what I want. There we go. Seem to be back up and running. Frankly, that was a minor inconvenience. Yeah, next step was just going to be tips of the bullets. Oop, accidentally got a little bit of silver on his stomach there a while ago, it seems. I'll cover that up in a moment. Let's just get the top of the little teeth that he's got on his boot. I am probably going to hit all of his boots with the brown wash when it does come to let's get his pistol grip. When it comes to washing the base. Just to help sell that he is standing in this dirt, not over it. I do have a couple of rivets here and there on things I haven't painted silver. Mostly on these little pouches here, but just a dot of silver. Then there are the teeth on this pouch that I'm just going to hit. Then they're going to look a bit dull in comparison to the rest of the metal, but whatever. That looks okay. And yeah, and then the tooth on his back symbol. Going to need to touch up the white of this too, as well as the one on the pistol and on his belt, just to help sell the texture. Yeah, that's looking better. Right, we're almost done actually. We're almost at the home straight. It's had a little bit of an extra layer of grime to some of these metallics. Hit it with a brown wash, especially on the bullets. Painting the tips of the bullets after having already washed it has sort of like blurred that line a little bit. So let's actually get the ones on his bracelet first. Yeah, I'm actually going to see if I can hide that little touch of silver I accidentally got on his stomach with a brown wash. That seems to be doing it. Add a little to his belly button. Yeah. There we go. That's a cheat. When in doubt, cover up your mistakes. Man, bitrate is taking a hit right now. Someone must be watching something downstairs. Oh, there we go. We're back up. That's better. Man, can't make it easy, can you? Like I say, if I do finally get around to getting my camera working as a webcam via the capture device, should hopefully become at least less of an issue. Just hit with the brown, just add some grime on top of the brights. The knife too. Make it look a bit nasty and dirty. Wow, yeah. Oof. Just under 1k kilobytes a second, and rising back up to 2k. It's dipping and diving up and down. We are almost done for the evening, to be fair. We're almost at the 2-hour mark in about 20 minutes. So that's timing itself a bit gloriously. Tell you what, let's just start No, I want to finish the metallics, and then I'm going to get the wash on the base. Let's get the shoulder pad. Might as well get the teeth here. And then we'll start on the base. Jeez, yeah. Oh well, if it's going to crap out, it can crap out at the end. Let's just try and get this done, eh? It's not been my day in terms of technical things. So yeah, just getting the wash on the base, get that gritty texture showing up a bit more. Come on, connection, thank you. Oh wow, that is a very soft looking lump off the base. So I'm going to take paint. If I'm careful, it's not going to... Sorry, I'm having to do this off camera. It's because there is a lump at the back of the base that is not completely dried, but I can get away with it if I don't mix it up too much. There we go. And then just get the boots too, just to dirty them up. Just gotta wait for that to dry, and then we can finish off the base easy. Alright! The whites next. Right, tell you what. Know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna briefly stop broadcasting, reset my connection, and come back. Hopefully that gets me reprioritized. Be just a moment.